back to Weebology students. Thank you for coming back. I'm Ricky.
And I'm Ethan.
And man, I'm so hungry right now.
How hungry are you?
Hungry enough to eat a disturbing amount of Five Guys after this
Sounds
episode.
Good.
Oh, I'm so excited for it. But yeah, what we been working on lately?
Yeah, guys. So I gypped the system and got the student version of Adobe Creative Suite or Creative Cloud.
You're just laying it all out there.
Why not?
I mean, you just exposed us. You've exposed us on air. We gypped the system. We gamed it.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine that Adobe cares that much.
Nah,
that they would go listen to our podcast specifically to find out if people are chipping the system. Anywho, so we now have the entire Creative Suite, the whole Creative Cloud.
Oh my gosh, and it is so fun to play with. It's super cool.
So yeah, we've been working on using some cool After Effects stuff.
After Effects, Premiere Pro, Photoshop, and Illustrator. So you're going to be getting some sweet new visual content here soon on our YouTube channel and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, I did a very rudimentary version of like the After Effects waveform around our logo. And then Ricky's worked on the cooler version.
We got some really coming soon. We got some really cool visualizations. So check us out on YouTube if that's the way you like to listen on desktop or mobile. If you want to listen to our podcast that way, to see some pretty sweet treats for the eyes. It's very good visuals. So, but we are also
tweet about our sweet treats.
Tweet about the sweetest treats. So we were working on it at a coffee shop called Due South here in South Carolina, and we had an interesting experience.
Yeah, it was honestly. So I was editing our podcast, and Ricky was working on Patbot was editing.
Beep boop. Here's the scoop. Ethan was doing this one.
Yeah, I was doing this one. Anywho, so I was editing, so my headphones were on, and I was just listening intently to our conversation. And then Ricky was over there working on the animation, and then all of a sudden this guy comes up next to me and like taps me on the shoulder. And I'm like, what the hell is going on?
We thought he was going to be a new subscriber. We were about to go full like, hey, it's the Weebologist. How you doing? What's good? What's up?
Anyway, so he comes up to us and he goes, hey guys, today's our first ever public cupping.
Cupping. And
yes.
We looked at each other like, what the? Is he about to take us in the back room and?
Yeah, I was like, no thanks, sir. We're actually
cup
good.
What exactly? What would you like me to cup?
We're actually good on that. No, so so they do their own coffee roasting there, bean roasting, and they curate their own portfolio of coffee beans.
They definitely have a lot of buzzwords like that. Their taste profiles and their coffee profiles. It was very high-end roastery, but at the end of the day, it was essentially inviting the public in to see how roasters at certain roasteries, if that's the word for it.
I believe so.
Okay, it's roasteries. Will actually test the quality of their beans to make sure it is up to snuff. And apparently it's a weekly thing they did, but this is the first one for the public. And that was super interesting.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I had no idea, like, all the time that goes into specifically quality control post-roast.
Post-roast, yeah. So post-roast, it's very time-sensitive, too. You have to do certain smelling and tastings at certain time in the process. It only takes about 25 minutes, but at 4 minutes you have to smell it or do the break where you take all the skim off the top. You then taste it at 10 minutes, and then you taste it at 18 minutes when it's cooled off. It was a really educational experience. Me personally, I ignored one aspect of their advice.
Yeah, so they told us since we had basically 14 cups of coffee on the table, 2 for each blend. Mm-hmm. They said, hey, you guys might not want to just drink all of them. And Rick just decided,
screw that.
Yeah, how else am I going to get the flavor?
Yeah, I got to get all the flavor all the way down the gullet. So I decide, hey, instead of using a spittoon, I'm going to swallow it all. And after that experience, since we went 3 times around the table, I felt like I was, on crack.
Vibrating.
I was jittering.
He was visibly vibrating, folks.
I was pissing every 5 minutes. It was so unhealthy for me. I tipped. I definitely tipped, and
I didn't go to bed till 3 a.m. last night.
I did. I watched Us last night until like 1 in the morning, and I was still like, should I sleep? I should sleep now. And it wasn't necessarily like my body telling me, hey, you're tired now. It was a brain saying, you need to sleep.
Yeah.
You should probably sleep. So we had some beers yesterday and tacos to try to mellow everything out. And finally, by the end, I was not jittering so much. But my goodness, that's the most coffee I've ever had in my entire life in one sitting. And holy, and there's some high quality stuff too. So I'm
but it was a really cool experience. And if you wanted to look at some of those pictures, our Instagram is up and running.
Yep.
We're fully invested in the content train of Instagram.
And we're just gonna be blasting y'all with memes,
anime memes, shit about what we're working on.
Area 51 as well, It's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, so this episode will actually come out like probably way after everyone got killed already at Area 51.
Oh yeah, so we will we're waiting on bated breath to see the end of that and how many Naruto runners actually outrun bullets.
Yeah.
So what's your over under on how many people actually show up to Area 51?
I think 50 people will show up. One person will attempt to get in. He will instantly get arrested.
Wow, I think there's way more. I think there's going to be at least a dozen people who are earnestly, though I think about 50 to 100, I think closer to 100 is going to show up, but at least 12 are going to storm it. Definitely. Not alternate, you know what? Ultimate Ninja Storm. Ultimate Ninja Storm it. That's what's going to happen. So.
Yeah, so.
Is this a coffee podcast?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the profile of
the Java profile and the Mocha profile.
Oh, the decaf tasted like firecracker.
You kept saying it tasted like
firecracker. It tasted like juniper.
And the cocaine was top notch. That's why I was jittering. But this is an anime podcast, Ethan. It's an anime podcast.
So what are we talking about today, Rick?
Today we're finally diving into a series we have mentioned a couple of times, and we said we were going to do it for dozens of episodes, literally a dozen episodes.
I think the first episode we mentioned this.
And we kept mentioning it in passing over and over, but we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into Black Clover.
And I am so effing hype about it, folks.
I'm pretty hyped now because I like the, I was pretty lukewarm on it as it came out. And then I started watching the sprinting for this episode. And the more I watched it, the more I turned to kind of started loving it as a shonen schmuck of shorts,
Yeah.
It's
you're setting yourself up for just complete disaster with that sentence structure.
Oh,
shonen schmuck.
So, okay. Before we begin, there will be spoilers to the anime up to this point. At this point, it is about 90 and change in.
I think I'm like in the 96 range.
Okay, and I'm at the high 70s, so we have enough to talk about here. So I think what we're going to do first, Ethan, give us a little bit of background on the world. Before we get into the characters, before we get into the story, what is the world of Black Clover like? What are we looking at?
Sure. So, you'll basically get a lot of this right in the very beginning of every episode. And I actually love the openings of this show.
The consistent repeating
like the introduction.
Right. I've warmed
it's
up
like,
to it.
Mahote. Anyway, the narrator's voice is sick.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, in this world, most people have the ability to use magic.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain age, everyone is kind of issued a grimoire of sorts.
A grimoire?
Yeah, no, a grimoire. At each of these kingdoms have their own basically like tower of like wizarding arts or something like that.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, and so basically everyone at a certain age will be issued their grimoire, and then they will go on to basically live their life using their type of magic. Everyone has a specific attribute that they are strong in, weak against, etc. Basically, like a normal magic world.
And that's something you brought up right before we hit record on this, is that it wasn't exactly clear that who gets a grimoire and who doesn't. Everyone gets one, essentially. Right. And the way that most of these kingdoms are situated is that the more magical power you have, it's usually hereditary, since there are royal families with a notable higher mana count. But the further away you live from like the center of the kingdom, the more peasantry you kind of considered, and the less magical potency that you have. But magic flows through all people.
Right, so it's less likely the farther you are from the capital and noblehood, or if you want to call it that,
right?
That you would have a large like mana reserve. If you want to kind of, I don't know, make a parallel to another show, it's like chakra or ki that you would have in either Naruto or Dragon Ball Z.
Now, one thing I wanted to ask you about,
it's basically like fill yourself, like you're a cup, and then how much, how tall your cup is basically the amount of mana you have.
Right. So, but everyone usually has it. So I always wondered, is the whole nobility peasant thing, it's not a location based thing, right? It's just the way that after generations and generations of people have been, living with magic, is it that all of the people that have high potency mana counts have moved closer to the capital, or is it because they're born near the capital that they have more of this mana? Because it seems like a ring structure, right? The further you live away, the less mana you seem to have in general, but that's not always true, as we've learned. So I'm curious.
Well, I think it's mostly like, so the whole nobility. So this is actually one of the parts of the show I'm really a big fan of, is they're like very clear that most of nobility are assholes.
They are
and, like, racist,
super dicks. Yeah, they're super.
I don't know
dicks.
What you call it. Like, it's not.
It's classist. It's classist. Yeah, it's classist. But it's based on mana count. But it also seems like because this person has a high mana count.
Yeah, like medieval times, like really hybrid people would always, marry into hybrid families, right?
And that's always dictated in this world by your ability to, as a vessel for mana. The more you have, the better you're seen.
Which, I mean, theoretically, like, you think genetics makes sense, right? Two people that are really strong should have a really strong kid.
Exactly.
Like, physically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's kind of what they played off in terms of, because, I mean, throughout the show, there's a lot of people, like, that are peasants that actually have an insane amount of mana.
Exactly.
But I think it's related to kind of how much they train and stuff like that.
And then you have nobles that are complete fuck-ups. Like they're just not good. Even if they have a lot of mana, they're not good using it.
Yeah, so it seems like that's what I really like about it, is like you could be the strongest family, but you have to get lucky with your attribute. It seems like I don't know. We can talk about the Silvas really fast.
But we'll get into some of these families and the characters. But let's introduce our main characters.
Yes.
So in the beginning of the show, we meet our two boys.
Right. So Asta and Yuno.
Ah! He is such a screamer, Asta.
Yeah.
It's
in the beginning.
In the beginning. So I'll go into my tirade about how I've come around to this show. But we have Asta and we have Yuno.
Right, and they were both dropped off on the doorstep of a priest's monastery type.
Yeah, where do priests live? Monasteries, churches. There's
that's what's odd about this church, is it seems like nobody else goes to it.
No, it's just that's actually a good point. So what would you call that? A nursery?
I'm guessing just a monastery.
Because they're just kids.
Orphanage, maybe.
Yeah, maybe even an orphanage. Okay.
But they never say that. Anyway, so it's often like the peasant land, kind of like wasteland part of this world.
I think it's the village of Hanj. I think that's where they're from.
And what's really cool about this village is in the beginning, you see, like I was talking about, the intro of every episode, you see the original Wizard King fighting this massive, like, world-level threat demon.
Like the size of a couple mountains. It's huge.
Yeah,
it's
like
so
multi-city large.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that intro, you see him like fighting him, and they talk about him beating him, and then, the Wizard King is then passed down through generations, like the title.
He was the first one because he was the most powerful mage to combat this demon threat.
And like save the world from these demons.
And everyone literally just bowed down to him, and the Wizard King became, honestly, from that point onward, became much more popular than the actual king. Now, that's an important distinction to make.
Just because he's dope.
Just because he is so much more powerful and dope.
Right, but what's cool about Hanj is that the skeleton of that demon is still there and visible in most shots.
It's in every,
And so what they did, though, is they put a statue of the Wizard King on the thing's head. It's pretty funny.
It's such a fuck you to the demon after the fact. Like, you thought.
Yeah.
Nope. pop, and the statue is like the size of the Wizard King, but this demon skull is the size of a huge mountain.
Right. So it's like
awesome.
it's pretty cool, and it kind of gives you an atmosphere and really places you in the setting. So you're like in this countryside rustic area, but there's still this massive thing, like as a constant reminder that this world is not just like a normal world, right?
Right.
So I really loved that about the setting of the first kind of, I guess, 10 episodes. And so what's really cool, you got Asta, who is like basically magicless.
He is the only person. He's pulling a Midoriya here, and while in the My Hero Academia universe, about 80% of the people have magic, in Black Clover, 99.9999999%.
Right.
Literally everybody has magic except for Asta. Who I don't think there's an example of anyone up to this point that doesn't have magic.
Yeah, we've heard of absolutely nobody else that doesn't have magic.
Except for our boy Asta. So he is the living embodiment of never giving up. And that is something that honestly threw me off initially. Because
I will agree with you here. When I first had heard about this show, I was not interested at all.
It felt so shonen boiler text.
Very, very, very formulaic. And I'll just give you some context. At this point, Bleach had just basically, they decided they're not going to do it.
Right.
Another show.
Right.
And Naruto had literally just ended.
Yeah, because the studio that put it out is Studio Pierrot.
Who did Naruto
and Naruto Shippuden. So they are basically jumped off of one Shonen Jump IP and went on to another, which is interesting because I guess they felt that it was so akin to the Naruto formula. You have this kid who is basically a fuck up just by birth, and then you have his rival, who's Yuno, who is literally a magical genius. He has a wind attribute type, and he is a prodigy by all definitions. He's the cool, calm, collected rival, and Sasuke is, I'm sorry, is celebrated as such. So,
but what I think is really cool, they both get dropped off as babies, right?
Right.
And Yuno's the loud ass baby, Asta's the loud ass baby, and Sasuke, is the cool, calm, and collected. And they grow up basically as brothers in this orphanage.
Mm-hmm.
But Yuno's strong. Asta has no magic.
So how does he compensate?
So he compensates by becoming a meathead.
He's a beefy boy. He's like your bodybuilder, which is great. But he's also, because he doesn't have magic, he works extra hard to try to keep up with Yuno. And despite that, he doesn't get all the recognition he felt like he wants, because he wants to become the Hokage. I mean, Wizard King. And then he was very outlandish and loud, and when he screams to get attention because Asta, he tries to do his best to get noticed and wants to become Wizard King.
At one point I think he painted over the Hokage. I'm sorry, he was messing around in the the skeleton of the demon.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious what we're doing right here, right?
Yeah, so basically when I first heard about this show, I was not interested at all because I thought it was just going to be formulaically like copy paste.
Yeah, and I think,
and it was. I will say the beginning totally was that, because
we find out that you remember that we talked about that Grimoire ceremony, and and Asta both go because it's a coming of age thing.
Right.
They both go. There's a whole bunch, and it felt like it happens in sectors because everyone from the surrounding boony villages have come to a certain spot. I bet that in the capital probably happens in a much more grandiose pomp and circumstance kind of thing because they know they're going to get theirs, and everyone gets theirs. So essentially, the idea of a grimoire, that the first Wizard King was blessed with a special grimoire.
Right. So this was really cool.
You're right.
They talk about the 3 cloves of the clover.
Because this kingdom is the Clover Kingdom, is where he resides. All these villages in the capital, it's the Clover Kingdom. And what is it? It's like faith, hope, and love.
Hope, love, and then the 4th leaf of the clover is luck.
So everyone's getting their grimoires, right? Asta and Yuno are there as well, and Yuno steps up to get his, and wouldn't you know it, the prodigy gets the 4-leaf clover, the same one that the first Wizard King had.
Right, and so Sasuke gets his Sharingan, and Naruto gets Bubkiss.
He gets absolutely Bubkiss. He doesn't receive a grimoire at first. Now, this black, gritty, gross grimoire comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, so they get attacked, and basically someone tries to steal Sasuke's Sharingan.
Essentially because they're super jealous of his eyes.
His
and
dojutsu.
So Orochimaru, I'm sorry, some bandit comes in.
We really got to fix ourselves here,
I don't know. So they come in, first battle. Asta then materializes his own grimoire. It's this black, rusty looking grimoire, but it has 5 leaves in it. And then the narrator kicks up and says something that I think to this day is like one of my favorite parts of the whole show, is that faith, hope, and love reside in the 3 leaves of a clover. In the 4th leaf is luck, but in the 5th leaf lies a demon. And then he pulls out this badass big motherfucker sword. He takes this big fuck off stance and just whips the dude with the sheer weight and his muscles. And it turns out that Asta, while having no magic, has anti-magic properties.
No.
Yeah, his sword does. But basically, he doesn't have any magic at all. But his sword can cut through any magic. So his magic, his gift is the ability to cut through pretty much all their magic, which.
Right, so what's really, really cool about this, and one of the reasons that I love this show so much, is he is the only person in the entire world that can wield this weapon.
Yeah.
So this grimoire cannot have gone to anyone else, because he's the only one who has no magic. So basically, when anyone is touched by this sword, their magic just instantly gets sapped, so they basically all go unconscious immediately.
Right. They're drained of everything, but he's essentially, his vessel, like we talked about earlier, is empty.
And he's been working on his body his whole life, so he is the only person that can lift this thing. It's so freaking heavy.
So no one else can even touch lift the damn thing to use it, but he uses it with one hand sometimes. Yeah. And it's just, whoa, Asta, you're a beefy boy. Yeah. Like, that's so cool. So it's even here at this point, learning all this stuff, it still felt so basic, you know?
I mean, it was very, tropey, and, because at one point we had thought, oh, how do we throw together all the tropes of all the animes and create a new hit?
Right, and it's still, to this day, it has hints of that. However, I guess what made you come around?
Yeah, so what's really, I think, dope about this show is the depth of the world. They world build so well.
It is very deep.
It's like Naruto world building level, in my opinion.
And it's funny, because I think in a previous episode, when we had a quick conversation about Black Clover, I remember saying that I think it needs to get to like episode 100 to leave a lasting mark in the anime community. At episode like 78, I see it. I get it. I understand that they're preparing themselves for a long-winded shonen world building, and I think they do a lot of things right, maybe even more so than some of the big 3. One thing I liked about, let's compare him to Naruto, since we've been obviously doing that the entire time.
Who?
Who? I don't know. Asta's special gift that makes him more powerful or more different than the rest of the world. You knew that Naruto had the demon fox in him from day 1, from episode 1. It's been clearly stated. You don't really know Asta, like, the source of this, or why him, or what this grimoire is. They leave a lot of mystery while still keeping him clearly as the power ceiling almost for this world. Because if it is magic, by the rules of the world, he is immune if he has a sword. But there's mystery. We really don't know what's up with.
Yeah, I mean, even now at episode 96, I don't really know what the deal is with him.
Right.
He's gained a few more powers and stuff like that at this point. and one that he gains and then never uses again. So that was interesting.
Is it one that I haven't seen yet?
No.
Or what? He uses it twice because he uses it once in the Witch Saga or the Witch arc, and then he uses it again on the Volcano Training, with the Crimson Lions. He uses it. He uses his ki detection, and then essentially just keeps it.
What are you talking about? What I'm talking about is he has a second sword that he gains later when they're looking for a dungeon.
Oh,
and he's able to imbue the sword with an attribute
because he doesn't have any himself.
Right.
You're right. We were talking about two different powers.
Uses it absolutely once and then never again, and I don't understand.
That's so
why.
rad. And didn't the slash he give out have that attribute but also anti-magic properties as well? That is so rad. Why have they not used that more, dude? That makes me so upset. But okay, we mentioned Crimson Lions. Let's start mentioning.
So I actually want to quickly talk about the Grimoire
itself.
Yes.
Okay.
So what's really cool about this power system, in my opinion, is that basically when you get your Grimoire, you have one spell in it or something like that, right?
Right.
And the way you add more spells is by going through some character growth.
Right.
So you either, figure out something about yourself, or you learn how to work well with others or something like that, and a new spell will automatically be written in your Grimoire.
Yeah, that's super cool.
So it's such an insanely endearing and cool power system because you can't just train really hard and become, 9 million spells in your Grimoire.
Right.
You have to like go through a struggle and pass through it or overcome it to gain powers within your attribute.
See, that's the one thing I'm still mixed on that. Because there doesn't seem to be a clear-cut way to gain a new spell. That feels very old-school textbook anime to me, is that your feelings and your struggle just give you more in the moment you need it. But I think it'd be a lot more cool to see a much more kind of, not so much a super rigid system, but if someone were to be like, I want to learn more spells, there is a way, maybe a couple of ways that they can go about doing it, maybe through a certain type of training or through, I think it'd be super cool if like people learn ki detection like Yami taught Asta, that if they kind of felt inside themselves like, oh, what if I tried this? And when they kind of almost, I know as much as I shit on it, the wise man's grandchild, where if you kind of have the logistics of a spell, you're like, oh, clicks, and then the new spell gets recorded. It'd be cool to have something like that. But I do like the fact that
what I like about it is it limits the ability for you to just be a noble and instantly win because you're a noble.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it kind of levels the playing field a lot because it allows you to gain new powers, new spells by overcoming things within yourself.
Yeah, and that's peasant noble no matter what.
Right.
Yeah.
So, for instance, there is a character, Noelle, who is really unconfident about her abilities. She becomes confident and then gets a new spell. Or she is very selfish, becomes non-selfish, and gains a defensive spell that allows her to help more than just herself.
Right. So
it's something like that where it's like a character growth or something like that allows you to unlock new spells, and I think it's really cool because it does level the playing field a lot.
And you know what? I take back what I said a little bit. I take back that there isn't a very clear-cut way of gaining spells because I think I just thought about this, where let's take Mimosa. As an example, she is a magical knight, which we'll talk about this whole magical knight system in a second. But she's one of the Clover Kingdom's magical knights.
And she's a noble.
She's a noble. So she is very powerful, but she's not very assertive. Her personality feels like it lends itself to support and healing. Mm-hmm. And that when she introduces herself, that's her specialty. It's all about your personality. And like Magnus from Black Bulls.
Magma,
excuse me. He has
Magna.
Sorry. He has essentially only attack spells.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of guy he is.
He's like a delinquent, brash guy.
I love him so much.
Yeah, he's awesome.
So I think it is very personality based. And the last thing I'd say on Grimoires is just they act as a conduit. They are not your magical source of power. You can still do stuff, which we've seen in the past. People didn't have to whip out a Grimoire at all to do some basic spells, and that's basically comes down to mana count, your ability, how much mana you actually have. But there's so much variety in this show in terms of powers.
Yeah, it's my favorite, bonkers. I think, honestly.
It's bonkers. There isn't like the 5 chakra types in Naruto, or even, I think it's even more, would you say it's even more varied than Bleach's Zanpakuto? Because everyone has their own attribute, but also other spells.
Yeah, probably.
So that's the one thing I was thinking, like, wow, they really packed a lot of variety in this power system.
Yeah, and so like when I mentioned the world building, this is kind of what I meant, is they made every power completely unique to the person and super deep. Mm-hmm. So I think now we should probably talk about, we've kind of, tiptoed around it. There's basically a class system.
Yes.
The farther away from the kingdom you are, you're a peasant. The closer you are, potentially you could be a noble or of high birth or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so to each kingdom will have their own version of this basically group called the Magic Knights.
The Magic Knights. They're super cool.
Right. So it's did you ever watch that show on Nickelodeon, Gas? Called Legend of the Hidden Temple.
Oh, hell yeah, I watch Legend of the Hidden Temple.
So they have teams like Purple Monkey, or I think it was Silver.
I don't know. I just remember I remember being a game show and that really cool looking head and obstacle course. Yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah, so there's teams and they have mascots essentially. Mm-hmm. So that is similar to the Magic Knights. So basically there's 12 uber powerful, or it might be 8. I don't know. There's some number.
I think it's like 9. Because they had that ceremony and 2 didn't show up and there are only 7 on stage. So I think it might only be 9.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So there's the Wizard King is at the top.
Actual badass.
Yeah.
Julius.
And this is of just the magical knights. There's another king that is like of the people.
Right.
So this is another thing that's kind of interesting. There's the normal nobility.
Right.
And then there's also nobility within the Magic Knights. You don't necessarily have to be a Magic Knight to be a noble.
Right.
There's just the regular like nobility that, any type of kingdom would have, like in our world, say. But say you're really strong in magic and you want to go be a Magic Knight, you can then join the Magic Knights. So there's 9 different ones, and they all have a really strong captain.
Oh, the captains are so unique and cool. Some of them are a little lackluster in my opinion. But who's your standouts? Who would you say are the coolest?
Well, I'm just gonna list them off really fast. We got Julius Novachrono as the Wizard King.
He is so cool.
He's really cool.
I love him.
Time magic,
and he's got time magic. Yeah. That is so OP. There is not a person alive that can touch him.
So actually, right now at my episode, he is in the middle of a fight.
What?
Yes.
I know what I'm doing after dinner. I'm gonna go home and watch the rest of it because I'm in the middle of a tournament arc and I'm so hyped.
So then the next lowest, or like the highest, I guess, clan or whatever you want to call it, a group of Magic Knights is called the Golden Dawn.
God, these guys are pompous as fuck.
Yeah,
dude.
So they're like the super nobles, super powerful team, and they're always like. This is what's so insane about this show. It's just so deep. So there's a tournament every year between all of the different clans. God, how do you call them?
Squads.
Thank you. Squads. My God. All the different squads. There's like a tournament.
All the ninja clans come together.
God dang it.
All the squads.
No, so there's a tournament between all the squads, just like Harry Potter houses, where every year you get your demerits and like your, you did a great job saving this village, or, finding that cat in the tree or something like that.
But you also get these in the form of golden stars, much like we do on iTunes. You should give us 5 stars so we can
5 stars and write a review so we can shout you out on the podcast.
So petty. But so you get gold stars for doing harder missions, your retrieval of artifacts, stuff for the kingdom, and you get black stars for like
basically wanton destruction
while
on like business
or just like delinquency, I guess, as well. So
so the best one is the Golden Dawn, led by Captain William Vengeance,
and he's
second best is Crimson Lions.
Now, not anymore, which I want to go talk about.
Well, wait.
No, come on. You gave me a hand motion. Okay, Crimson Lions are next.
He's over here just stopping my flow.
I'm gonna let you finish.
Okay.
No, you're gonna try to. No, you can.
Crimson. The Lions, Fugulione Vermilion.
Are you done?
No. The third squad is are they Silver Eagles, led by Nozel?
Nova Silva or something like that. I got a character list right here because there's literally hundreds of characters.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Nozel Silva. Yeah.
Yeah, Nozel Silva. Wait, what's his little brother's name?
There's Solid and Nebra.
Solid.
Solid.
Okay. Nozel Silva, the third, and he runs the Silver Eagles, I think they're called.
Yeah, basically they're a bunch of white-haired, pompous, pretty boys.
Bunch of noble assholes.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth team is probably the Blue Rose.
Yep, Blue Rose, consisting of mostly women, and all of the men in there are errand boys.
Yeah.
Led by Charlotte Roselli.
Yeah, who is super cool.
She is cool.
Then there's the Purple Orcas.
Yeah, fuck those guys.
Led by like a gang leader.
Essentially, yeah.
What are the other?
What else
Aqua
we got?
Deer.
Yeah, we have the Azure Deer, led by Real Boismortier.
Yeah, Real Besmortier.
Boismortier. Ah, true. Okay, Besmortier, who I think his magic is super cool. So
it really is.
Then you have the Coral Peacock, led by super sleepy Dorothy Unsworth.
Right.
Let's see, we got the Green Mantis, led by literally a man named Jack the Ripper, and he is terrifying to look at. He is your lanky boy.
He has slice magic.
Literally, he's like the Pokemon like Scyther, but magic. That's it. Scyther. And then we are finally at what I believe to be my favorite, and everyone's in general favorite squad.
The Black Bulls.
The Black Bulls, the runts of the proverbial litter. Now, that's led by...
At the beginning... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Yami Sekihiro, who is essentially a man who's from Japan.
Yeah, from Japan, washes up on the shores... the shores of the Clover Kingdom, and then is brought into the Magic Knights by Julius Novachrono.
Mm-hmm. And he is dark magic, and he is literally... He carries a katana... And he always references the homeland, and he is one of the only fighters that uses the concept of ki to, sense people and sense just natural energy in people aside from magic. So he's a little bit OP, even amongst the Magic Knights. He's probably one of the strongest Magic Knight captains, right?
He definitely is.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what's really cool. There's basically you've got the CEO at the top of the company, Julius, and then basically it branches down to each of the captains, and then they all have within those ranks. There's also there's a broken down like senior magical knight, first class. It's like basically an army, right?
Right.
There's senior magical knight, second class, mid tier, intermediate.
So there's a ranking system for what you can be, but there's also like vice captains and third seats and stuff like that. So you can have a ranking. So
it's a lot like Bleach, where each of those squads had like actual hierarchy, and that is something I really love in shows. Is when you give like the feel that there is a progression you can make, and that is where I will say my maybe one of three complaints is they bring that system into the light, and then they basically haven't referenced it much at all.
That is true. We really only see it in this particular tournament arc when they start showing the names of people, and you kind of like, oh, a third sheet showed up, or oh, a vice captain showed up. You know, that's when you kind of start to see. But that's always been the advantageous part of a system like that, is that you can hear a name and the accolades of just by all of their like their surnames and their titles and stuff. You can be like, oh, you're a fourth seat, well, I'm a vice captain, and you're like, oh snap, this vice captain just showed up when we're in for something.
Right. So what I think would be cooler, and so they constantly will say all the Black Bulls are heavily underrated, so they're way stronger than their ranks.
That's the most crazy part,
which
right?
is really, really cool. But I think it would hit harder to the audience if you were like, they're the absolute lowest rank and they're kicking the shit out of vice captains. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To like kind of just show that the Black Bulls are getting shit on for no reason.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know? So basically at the beginning of the show, the Black Bulls are the lowest rated squad because they have, I think it was like negative 130 stars.
Yeah, they have 130 black stars and not a single one to speak of. It works in positive negatives. If you're in the hole and you get gold stars, you just get black stars taken away.
Right.
Yeah, and while everyone else has like nearly 100 stars, like gold stars, they have 130 because they do successfully do their missions, but they're so destructive and they destroy everything around themselves. And so they keep coming back and they keep getting in the hole because mission successful. Oh yeah, you cost the kingdom thousands and thousands in damages.
Yeah.
And that's where our boy Asta ends up, in the Black Bulls.
So actually, they have this like mini tournament arc in the very beginning of the show, where all prospective Magic Knights go and perform in front of basically the whole.
I think all the captains are kind of there, right?
Yeah, so like most of the captains are there, and they just like kind of watch and decide who they want from prospective magical knights.
They're fighting for bids, essentially.
Right. And so basically you do like kind of a bunch of aptitude tests in the beginning, and then there's fight rounds, and Asta slays everyone.
Right.
But he has 0 magic, so he's failed all the attribute tests.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's time to do a kind of like selection process, they call out everyone by name and number or whatever, and they'll like basically they'll say, oh, this guy, this candidate, who wants him? And then the captains will raise their hand if they want him or not.
It's essentially a magical frat bid process.
It's absolutely
because everyone, it's not one person will get them. It's that you can then choose amongst the bids of the captains. Like, hey, we'll have you on our team.
So if you get four captains to raise their hand, you get to choose.
Right. So what we have here is, and Asta went through this process, and like I said, Asta gets no bids except from Yami.
Right. So actually, at first he gets no bids.
Right.
And you're like, how is this possible? He's the main character.
Yeah.
So when he basically like his world crashes and he's about to like walk away, Yami just goes nuts, and he shows everyone his true power, and just like basically, in like either Bleach or Dragon Ball Z, when people are just like I don't know what you call it, like superpower
charge up.
Yeah, charge up. And then you like see like physical representations of that, and like the world shaking or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he does that.
Oh yeah.
He drops down from his like perch, stands in front of him, and just freaking hulks out. And everyone's afraid, including some of the captains are like, damn, he is strong.
Right.
And Asta just stares at him and is like, you still want to join my, squad? And he's like, yes. And
yeah,
he goes, okay.
Cool.
And so he accepts him in. And then Yuno goes up, and every single captain wanted him.
They all want him.
So he chooses the Golden Dawn because he thinks it will be the quickest path to the Wizard King. So that's something we kind of glanced over, is that what keeps them together, Asta and Yuno, is they both want to become the Wizard King, similar to like if they both wanted to be the Hokage.
Exactly. And it's funny because I think this is one of the ways that Black Clover kind of subverts the whole rival mentality of most shonens, is that it's a very positive, almost like positive antagonistic force, because they're competing against each other, but in no way is there bad blood. Naruto and Sasuke are considered rivals.
They're still bros.
They're still bros, and they're always bros, no matter the path they take. Being the prodigal wizard with the lucky 4-leaf clover grimoire, and he's in the best squad, and he has the most basically earns the most stars. He is taking the traditional.
He's the number one rookie.
He's the number one rookie, so he's taking that path. But Asta is taking his own very Naruto-esque, I'm going to fight it, believe it kind of style journey as well. But every time they meet, they keep getting stronger and they keep becoming buddies. That's always been endearing.
Yeah.
It's always been great.
So what I think another portion of this show that I really like, that I think most people will agree with, like one of the only reasons people like Fairy Tail is that everyone in the clan feels like family. They all love each other. They all like push each other to be stronger, right?
Yeah.
So when Asta joins the Black Bulls, they are just like an absolute mess.
They are a train wreck of a squad.
Right, and they're all fucking fighting all the time, hammered or whatever, right?
And another thing, I'm so glad you're bringing it up in this order, because this is another thing that I think they subvert, is that each person in the Black Bulls, by themselves, isolate them, they're actually pretty one-dimensional at the beginning. They all have a typical trope. You have the battle-hungry person. You have the delinquent. You have the lolly lover, like literally sister lover. There's a person who stares at a picture of his sister and just nosebleeds.
Gosh.
Yeah, he's cool, but whatever. And then you have the food-obsessed one. You have the ladies' man.
Charmy.
Yeah, you have Charmy. And then
Finral.
And then you have, so that everyone has like a trope. You have Noelle, who is the most textbook tsundere of all time for Asta. But where it shines is that their interactions together as a squad make for character interactions you don't see in typical long form shonens a lot. It feels organic. It feels like everyone reacts the way you'd expect them to, given that they're interacting with each other's tropes. I don't know. It's super endearing. There's something that the sum is better than the whole. The whole is better than the sum of its parts in terms of the endearing factor of these character interactions.
Right. So I think one thing to mention is most of these captains will only pick nobles, or they'll only pick people they think have a really like obvious chance to help out.
Right.
But Yami seems like he does things a little bit differently.
Oh yeah.
He just he picks people that he wants to join and like have fun with.
Right.
And that he thinks can basically surpass their own limits. That's his
Yami feels like the guy, he already had his own anime somewhere else. Like he already had his own story.
Right.
Every part about him is like the shonen protagonists of old, all those tropes, as if they had already done it all. It's like Naruto as Hokage already.
Yes.
Washing up on shore somewhere in a new story and becoming captain of his own squad. Never give up, surpass your limits right here, right now. And he has that air of like, if I were a main protagonist in the Big Three era, my show would have kicked ass. But right, I'm in Asta's show now, so I'm on his journey. So that's another thing.
And so he's like so powerful and violent that they're all afraid of him, but they'll do anything you ask. They like love each other, and that's what's really cool about this group of Magic Knights is they were all misfits from like, one of them was a runaway, prisoner, Ghosh.
Essentially, yeah.
Vanessa ran away from a witch kingdom.
It's so crazy.
Finral was he's a actually really highborn noble, but he only has transportation, spatial magic, and their family is known for like attack spatial magic.
Literally being able to like swipe space out of existence, and
like Hand from JoJo's.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. He doesn't have the fighting spirit to be a warrior.
Yeah, he's just too nice, right? And so he ends up losing the heiring. Like he's not the heir of his family anymore. His little brother is.
Insane. So after they've introduced all these characters, the way they build on them all is very, very well done. These stories are great
because they tell you all their backstory, and then everyone will be with Asta and have some kind of character moment where they have to decide to, be better than themselves and, bust through their limits.
Right.
So what's really cool about Asta is his life kind of struggles that he's been through, basically having no magic, having Yuno be like a prodigy.
Literally a god next to him.
Right, initially. And just having to absolutely push through his limits and try really hard to gain muscle and do all this stuff and overcome some of his weaknesses, becomes a roadmap for each of the people in the Black Bulls to grow and become better than themselves. They all will have their character moments when they're out with Asta, like about to die or something, and they're like, we're not going to let this kid die. We're going to help him become the Wizard King.
Right. They're inspired by his ability to not give up. So if without Asta, they probably would still be shitheads.
Right.
Yeah, they still would be shitheads without Asta. And I think this leads honestly to my personal overall idea of why this show kind of hooked me in. It takes the best parts of, I would say, the big three, and then it subverts the stuff that it can and keeps the best of what it took. The stuff that doesn't need changing. I am stopping because Ethan just put a big foam block over his mic, and I think it's silly but also brilliant.
Yeah, this might like work out really well.
It's so crazy. Anyway, so I like to see how it's subverting. I like to see how the story grows and the world gets bigger. You know, we were introduced to a whole another kingdom. And there's now like a warring state concept. But, you know, final thoughts, just before I want to do one thing with you that I thought of before we started this, and I didn't tell you about this yet.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. I'm very excited to see now where this goes because they have had the time to build a world that I think is compelling. The rules are set. We see those that can break them. We're, being introduced to parts of the world that were always there but not known, as in mystical magic and like mystical beast magic and stuff like that. I want to continue it, but I am a little bit hesitant because it feels like it's still teetering on the edge of falling into a trope that could be a mainstay. At any point, it feels like the trope can be fallen into and like, oh, this part of the story now. Well, that's just okay. That's makes a lot of sense. So they have a fine line, but they're walking the right path with this story, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. So,
I mean, for me, I absolutely love this show.
It is very enjoyable.
I mean, like I said in the beginning, I wasn't, sold at all, but I just kept pushing through. So they do this thing where they make Asta really fucking annoying in the beginning, where he's just screaming and like, I think it's just to over exaggerate him brimming with,
energy, I guess.
Energy and like enthusiasm for becoming a Magic Knight or becoming the Wizard King. So he's always loud as shit, always like way over the top. But he's compensating for his own personal like loneliness and like, despair towards not having any magic and just basically being set off to such a negative in the beginning.
Right. And they do kind of turn him down a little bit. They turn the volume down on the Asta
They
meter.
really do.
And that's where you can...
And it's so amazing.
You can see
Thank you so much, Pierrot.
Yes, thank you. It went from it felt gimmicky, like a character gimmick, to what you just said was more true later when Asta has an injury so bad they have to go find a special cure for his arms. He can't fight without his arms. He doesn't have magic.
Right.
So... how that plays out, you'll have to watch. But the thing I liked about what you said is it's clear he does it because he is secretly he can very easily get depressed about understanding that I am not like everybody else. I am at a disadvantage in a big way because without magic, I don't feel like I belong in a world that's full of magic. It's not that he is shunned like Naruto because he's got evil inside of him. It's because he lacks what makes everyone else normal. And it's that duality of I am going to keep screaming through it because I'm secretly very self-conscious about this lack of magic. And he says it even later in the series that, I can't get depressed. I'm really jealous right now that everyone has magic and I don't. When they're doing mana skins in the training, he's like, I can't do this. Like, this is crazy. But yeah, he's warmed up to me. I like him as a main character. He's very endearing.
Yeah, and I think the world is really compelling because there's, parallels to real life. There's just blatant discrimination against people because they're peasants, even if they're significantly stronger magical knights than some of the nobles.
Right.
So I think what's really cool about how this is going to probably progress is I think eventually that's going to come to a head, and either who's a peasant or Asta will rise enough to where people are going to stop thinking in that same way.
It's already started to happen a little bit.
It's slowly twisting, you know?
Right. It's super
cool.
So
Noelle was really freaking annoying and being like really noble class.
Baka.
Yeah, classist, elitist type deal, right?
She even calls herself royalty out of nowhere as an excuse that she can just do dumb shit.
Get to do
Why'd you slap me? I'm royalty. What the fuck? Fuck you, dude.
But she's even turning around and she's like helping peasant kids. She's like doing all these things that royalty doesn't do. So you're seeing the effects of people like Yuno and Asta, like as social changers in this kingdom, and I absolutely love that.
I couldn't put it better myself. Last question before I want to do the thing that I didn't tell you about.
Okay. I could talk about this show for 50 episodes.
I know it is. There's a lot to talk about. If this show were to have come out around the big three, would it have done well? Would it have done better than some? How do you feel watching One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto? If Black Clover came out right at the same time and started right around the same time, how do you think it would have done?
I think it would have been a clear fourth, but I think it would have fit in the big four.
It would have been a big. You think it would have been popular enough to be a big four at that point?
Yeah. So I mean, we had talked about this before. We didn't know whether this would have been as popular if there was three other options.
Mm-hmm.
Like as it sits today, One Piece is the only one left.
Right.
You know, Dragon Ball Z does their shit all the time, but
and Naruto went left field as hell with Boruto, but that's for another discussion.
Yeah.
So I think it probably maybe wouldn't have gotten lumped in with the big three, and my only changing nothing about the show.
I think you start everything at episode 1.
Yeah, if you start every single one of those series at episode 1,
I think potentially it would have been okay.
Yeah, I wonder if it would have looked more like a copycat in juxtaposition against those big three, because
it wouldn't have, because those wouldn't have happened yet.
That's what I'm curious about. Would it have felt like, oh, this feels just like Naruto, or would they have said, oh, Naruto feels just like Black Clover? You know, who would have won that race? Who would have been the de facto setting those tropes? I wonder.
I think Naruto has a lot more like deep emotions in the beginning.
Yeah.
So people probably would have, you know, I think not everyone, but a lot of people can relate to being that one kid that nobody's going to play with, you know, on the playground, or like people avoid you like the plague.
Yeah.
I think that seemed to echo with society a lot.
And the kids of the day, like people that were watching that were
right.
probably our age.
And I mean, I think, you know, Asta has a lot of things that are relatable, like having to work harder than, like, you'll see it in school. There's just some kids that freaking get it. And there's some kids that have to study all night long.
That's a good way to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think both are very relatable in their own way. But
you still think it would have been a big four?
I mean, I don't see how it could have not been.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. So, what I wanted to do, lightning round, favorites in Black Clover. We're gonna get a minute each one of these questions, and I thought of about 5. So, favorite squad that isn't the Black Bulls. Go.
Crimson Lions.
Why? I like them too.
Because they're all dope.
They're all pretty dope. It's very fire-centric
squad. So what's really cool about the Crimson Lions is they're basically the Vermilion family. This is the main branch and the main nobility branch. You've got Fugu Leon at the beginning as the captain. Mm-hmm. And he's like really cool, really like he's respectful of people that aren't nobles. Like they're just cool, like into strength, you know, want to be strong, want to help the kingdom, like really noble people. Like noble, not in the sense where it's blood related.
Right.
And now it's Mary Leone, and she's by far my favorite character in the whole show.
She's actually insane.
She's my favorite by far.
She's super fun, but she's batshit crazy. For me, Blue Rose. Why? All babes. Next question. Next question. Favorite magic. Favorite magic type of all the people that you see in the show up to this point. Whose magic would you want?
So I know that Ricky's gonna say Real Bismortier, but I'm gonna say Julius Novachrono.
It's so.
Actually, I lied. Licked. Lick's light magic is so cool.
That's insane. Yeah,
it's so cool.
Real probably with paint magic because he can copy literally any magic that he sees on the battlefield with intensity and ferocity. If he wasn't such a like narcissistic dude about his paintings, he would be an actual beast, you know.
But he's like a 16-year-old captain.
That's also true as well. He's just prodigal at the way he does this stuff. If not him, it would definitely be Nozel Silva with Mercury magic.
Yeah, that's so sick.
That's OP as shit. That's just all the flexibility of water, but with actual metal. That's crazy. Best girl.
Does Mara Leone count?
Yes, totally counts.
So, I love her and Mimosa.
Mimosa is my gal. It used to be Noelle or even Vanessa, but
Vanessa's the hottest in the show by far.
Vanessa's the hottest in the Black Bulls.
Who's hotter in the show?
I would say the leader of Blue Rose.
Really?
Yeah, Charlotte. Okay. Oh, that or Mimosa.
She's nice too.
That or Mimosa. Mimosa.
Yeah, she's like low key.
I ship Mimosa and Asta.
Same.
That's how it has to end.
Fuck
you,
so.
Noelle. Fuck you. You don't deserve her.
Yeah, Mimosa is very Hinata-esque.
That's the vibe I'm getting. She's like very passive, but she's also very strong. Favorite arc thus far?
Yeah, so this is kind of tough because it's all one arc essentially.
Right.
The Eye of the Midnight Sun arc.
Yeah. So there's chunks here.
But I am really like that Royal Magic tournament arc was so sick.
That's where I'm at right now. Tournament arcs are great in Shonen. It's like battle after battle after battle.
And you just get to see so much depth of magic.
That is true as well. This isn't an unusual tournament arc. It's essentially capture the flag or destroy the crystal, so to speak. And there's squads of 3 from any of the Magic Knight squads. So they have to have teamwork on the fly, which is crazy. And I love that. Favorite villain? So
I think I'll say Veto or the guy from the Diamond Kingdom.
Oh, Mars?
Yeah, Mars.
Mars, he's the one who converts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's super cool.
Because they made him as like a freaking weapon of mass destruction.
What's his magic again?
It's half diamond, half fire.
That's because they like spliced him,
yeah.
which is crazy. I like Rhea.
Raya the disloyal.
Yeah, he's got copy magic.
Go ahead.
As you can tell, I like the ability to like snag magic from other people. That's pretty dope. Or Veto. Veto is just a beast.
Yeah,
I like
so
physical
cool.
augmentation magic is so cool. So yeah, that's just kind of my lightning round. Just trying to get get some of the little things out there. Favorite side character. People on the side.
Side characters.
People who aren't like true main characters.
Favorite Black Bull that isn't.
Yeah, let's do that.
Asta
Favorite Black Bulls.
or Yami.
Yeah.
I think Luck is super cool.
Luck?
Or Gordon.
I like Vanessa now that she is stupid OP. Like
she doesn't do anything.
I know she didn't do anything.
No, I know. I'm just telling you, like, don't be disappointed when she doesn't even basically show up for the rest of the show.
Lasai, okay. That or Gray. Because that
funny.
Was a cool twist. Because
Charmy, so powerful.
You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna switch to Charmy. She's super fun, and she's so like confrontable that literally during the Royal Knight arc, Julius just takes her and just puts her on his lap and just like, let the games begin. Okay. And
she just sits on his lap.
She literally just falls asleep on his lap and just feeds him cupcakes because she's got cotton magic, and one of her spells is that she's obsessed with food. So obviously it's personality based, so she has sheep that are like chefs.
Yeah.
And just constantly makes her food, but she's also super OP when she wants to use an attack spell.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And she's like really highly rated too. She's like a senior Magic Knight.
Oh yeah, she's your lowly bait. She's 19, but she's tiny. So
yeah.
Final thoughts. Black Clover. Should people watch it?
I implore you to watch it, please.
If you like the long form, and it's very bingeable. It's very bingeable.
And get through the first like 20 episodes, and I promise you're gonna love this show.
Even if you subscribe to the Religion of 3 in the 3 episodes, I think there's enough in those first 3 to at least keep you compelled to power through. But because I think
in the first 3 you'll say, "Wow, this is a big world, and I need to learn more." At the very least,
right. So if you're into world building, if you're into the big 3 back in the day, this will tug at some of those old nostalgia feelings a little bit too. It feels like you're watching one of those older shows, and I think it's a really good time. Any anime fan will. Do you think it'll be a masterpiece at the end of the day? Do you think
I think potentially.
And yeah, it just needs a lot of time for a show like this. But it's good.
I mean, if you think about it, there's it's only 1/6 of the length of any of these big three.
Exactly. So so if they take the time to build the world that I argue that they should, since what they have right now is great, it can be a classic. It can definitely be a classic
Easy.
of shonen. So,
love it. I love it. Love it.
Black Clover.
I would love to talk about this more.
We can circle back. Maybe in another 100 episodes. We can do a follow up. So thanks y'all for listening. This one was super fun because there was no prep for this one. We just sat down, pulled up a character sheet, like rip.
Yeah,
let's go
talk.
So we have a lot of love for this show. So thank y'all for listening.
Please. We're on Apple Podcast,
Spotify, Google,
any other podcast,
Stitcher, YouTube. And
yes, please check out our YouTube channel. People don't really know that we've got one, but we're putting up we're doing really cool shit where we're putting up new episodes of the podcast with some cool After Effects shit.
By the time this episode 16 will come out, we should have a whole updated suite of visuals. Some cool background stuff, some cool animated stuff.
We're getting sick in editing.
We're getting really good at After Effects, and we're only going to get better, so it's going to be a really good time. Thanks, y'all, for...
There's also going to be some just basically videos that are not related to the podcast.
Yeah, we're starting to set up some extra stuff. We're going to do some, personal top fives. We're going to do not just a top 5 list, but competing top 5s, see where both of us rank a list and see what's different about them. So it should be a good time. Check us out on YouTube, like and comment and subscribe, obviously.
Yes.
Apple gave us 5 stars.
And guys, the ratings really help us grow, but if you really want to help us grow, if you could suggest this podcast to one of your friendos.
Oh yeah, we're in the hard marketing stage at this point. Yeah, if you know someone who likes anime, but they just want to listen to 2 pseudo professors rip shit on the couch, just send us their way, and we'll entertain them too. So
yeah, and if you do end up, sending us to some of your friends, we have an Instagram.
We do have an Instagram. We're posting memes. We're posting
content. If you
tag
us, weebology.podcast. We would love to shout y'all out on the next episode after we get the old taggy.
Yeah, we may even read some comments if we start getting people commenting on our stuff. Give us any suggestions.
DMing or whatever you want to do.
Give us suggestions for topics. We're listening.
Definitely.
We're small enough that if you list something out, we'll probably do it.
Yeah, we will do it.
Yeah, we'll make a list. So that's it for today. I'm Ricky.
And I'm Ethan.
And this has been Weebology.
Pieces.
There's pieces I said.
Bye.
Bye.